Alright, now this is a topic that I really didn't know was up for debate. That is, until I did this video on the MLW. And thanks to a quick line just meant to further the connection of the parallels between MLW and ECW, well, this happened. Now, as much as I support the discussion among you, the members of the Dave Knows Wrestling Know-It-All Nation, we don't need to have any verbal throwdowns amongst each other. So let's just have civility reign as we try to clarify the answer to this seemingly simple question. Because today, Dave knows the first ECW champion. So some of you might be thinking, isn't this just a simple cut and dry case? Isn't there a documented on paper answer to this question? Well, yes, there is, but there is definitely room to read between the lines. But first, let's get into that on paper answer, because according to some documentation, the first ECW heavyweight champion was Jimmy Snuka, who won the title after winning a tournament on April 25th, 1992 in Mount Tabor, Pennsylvania, by defeating Salvatore Bellomo in the finals. Now, okay, with that being said, where's the debate in all this? Well, the debate comes in because when I say Snuka is the first ECW champion, the ECW part needs to be clarified. The E in particular. Because while most people know ECW is Extreme Championship Wrestling, it also used to stand for Eastern Championship Wrestling. Allow me to explain. ECW started out as part of the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance. Now, I've already covered the history of the NWA, so you can check that video out later for a more in-depth look. But for now, let's just do a quick overview. The NWA was an umbrella governing body that has smaller promotions working under it as part of what they called their territory system. And Eastern Championship Wrestling was one of them. That is, until they became Extreme Championship Wrestling, and succeeded from the NWA to become their own entity. And this is the first major part of this debate, because the question is, does a promotion simply changing its name change its title lineage? Well, some would say, no. After all, just look at the WWE. When it went from being the World Wrestling Federation to being World Wrestling Entertainment, its title lineage stayed completely intact. It also remained when Bob Backlund was the champion and the company went to being known as the WWF after first being known as the WWF. So if things didn't change for the House of McMahon, then why should it change for anybody else for that matter? Well, if we go a little further back, we might just get our answer. Because those weren't the only name changes that the promotion has gone through over the years. WWE was first known as the Capital Wrestling Corporation, and it was part of the NWA. When they broke off, the CWC became the WWF and declared Buddy Rogers to be their first ever champion. Now, tying this back to ECW, and when they left the NWA, changed their name, and crowned themselves a new champion, you can see how this just makes sense to consider Extreme Championship Wrestling its own company with its own distinct lineage. But yet, there would also be those who would argue that this is not exactly the same thing, because Buddy Rogers was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion and was booked to lose the title to Lou Thesz. However, the Capital Wrestling Corporation didn't acknowledge this loss, which led to them leaving. And if you are of a similar mindset to that, then you can cite this as precedence for the act of breaking away from the NWA also being the start of a brand new company and a brand new title lineage. But for those of you who do acknowledge Lou Thesz's win, Buddy Rogers winning the WWF title is not connected to the NWA belt at all, thus making it a very different story. But yet, there's still even more to consider out there for historic evidence. Let's just look at World Championship Wrestling, because WCW started out as a different company and also started out as part of the NWA. And on January 11th, 1991, Ric Flair won the NWA World Heavyweight title. But World Championship Wrestling considered this to actually be the first WCW World Heavyweight title win in history, thus starting a brand new lineage. Also, let's look at TNA. Christian was the NWA champion, and when the National Wrestling Alliance ended their arrangement with TNA, Kurt Angle would defeat Christian and Sting to become the first TNA World Champion. And TNA also started a brand new lineage with this win. Now, with all these companies being associated with the NWA, but then starting their own title lineages after breaking away from the Alliance, it does seem very strange that ECW would be any different, which is probably why so many, even including the WWE, acknowledge Shane Douglas as the first ever ECW World Heavyweight Champion. However, we're still not done, because there is yet another part of my original statement that needs just a little bit of clarification. Now, this is no doubt a throwback to when Shane Douglas won a tournament to become the first ever ECW World Champion. And it was that exact statement that sparked a very comment that started this whole debate. And I'm sure there's some of you wondering, how could Shane Douglas win a tournament to become the first ever ECW Champion if he was already ECW Champion? Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and as it turns out, this is also part of the argument. But okay, here's what happened. Shane Douglas was the ECW Champion for Eastern Championship Wrestling, having won the title on March 26, 1994 in an Ultimate Jeopardy steel cage match. A few months later, on August 27th, the National Wrestling Alliance would hold a tournament for the vacant NWA World Heavyweight Champion after WCW officially withdrew from the alliance the previous year. And this was the tournament that was won by Shane Douglas. But okay, so this tournament was clearly for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship and not the ECW Championship, which Shane already had, so where's the argument here? Well, for that, let's just turn to the franchise's coronation speech, where he famously told many legends of the industry that they could all kiss his posterior, in a matter of speaking. But it's the end of that speech that most people tend to forget about, and it's the part that's actually most prevalent to right now. It's the part where Shane Douglas says, "I declare myself the franchise as the new ECW Heavyweight Champion of the world. We set out to change the face of professional wrestling, so tonight, let the new era begin. The era of the sport of professional wrestling. The era of the franchise. The era of the ECW." And it's that distinction right there. While Shane Douglas was the Eastern Heavyweight Champion, he wasn't a world champion. It was just another title under the NWA banner. Shane Douglas and ECW took this opportunity to declare their championship as a world championship. And it was by winning the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in a tournament that added credibility to their belt, instead of just arbitrarily creating a new title and then claiming it to be a world title with no substance behind it. So, as many of us see it, after leaving the NWA, Shane's Eastern Heavyweight Championship became null and void along with his forfeited NWA World Championship. And thus, with winning the tournament and with the franchise's declaration, it becomes clear that the first Extreme World Heavyweight Champion was, of course, Shane Douglas. But I will admit that title recognition can sometimes be a bit subjective. So what do you think? Who do you feel is the first ever Extreme Championship Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion? And while we're at it, who do you think is the first ever WWE, WCW, and TNA World Champion? Let me know all that down in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and support me over on Patreon just like Richard Lee. Richard, thank you so much for the support. You help make this channel run. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, Dave knows.